because we are now far ahead in time. We are nearly at the end of the conference, but the conference, as you know, is part also of education and training. So education and training is a huge issue. So we here come together to have exchange and really learn from each other. So education and training is one of our main efforts. And we had the idea now during the last minutes to get a little bit feedback from you and input from you on the topic of education and training. And maybe just to put some spots on this, why do we, or why is it important to do this? On one side, we want to have strong organizations in the countries for different reasons. I don't want to go to all the details. It is absolutely clear. We need you as strong organizations. You are interested to be a strong organization. That's education and training is the key. But we also want to have a strong global network. That's the other part. So that's why we need to do training and education on a regular basis. The other point is that we as an organization, and this is a great opportunity to do education and training together, we need to understand your needs so that we are able to build or to give you the right offers in the direction of education and training. And when you remember our discussions during the last days, also discussing about our objectives of the strategic plan, this is an important objective in our strategic plan, to do more in the direction of education and training. And there are obviously some arguments and some key issues why we are doing this, including the fact that we don't want to reinvent the wheel. I think that's also very important. We can offer, we can organize a lot, but we also think or need to think about what's already out there in the field of education and training and bring all these issues together. And also regarding the conference, because the conference is an important piece of our community and on our projects, also when it comes to education and training, because after this conference is before the next conference, so we also want to learn or hear from you a little bit more. What are your interests? What are your needs when it comes to information, education and training? So these are some what we called areas or sections for training. So it starts with an area that's called, what about sarcoma and cancer basic knowledge, for example? What kind of information or what kind of knowledge do you need? Can we help you in this area, or is it an area where you do and your organizations are doing a lot on a national basis? The other topic is innovative future treatment opportunities. We see emerging treatments coming up, like the ADCs, CAR-T, TCR, theranostics, and a lot of different other issues. So is it in your interest to learn more about these topics? We yesterday talked about patient involvement in research, in cancer or sarcoma research. So what is your need, or what are your needs as beginners, but also what are your needs as advanced, because we have a lot of people in the room who have a lot of experience with this topic, but they are interested to learn more in this area. Then we have another area, and this is building, running, leading and strengthening a patient organization. We all know how much work this is to build up, to organize and to start a patient organization, but also to keep an organization running and also strengthen the organization. I'm sure we are able to learn a lot from each other in this area. And then we have the evidence-based advocacy and lobbying. And I think this was just a fantastic piece of work in showing what evidence-based advocacy or lobbying can do. And then we have another area. This is about digital oncology, because this is not a topic of tomorrow or 5 years. This is a topic of now, because it has already started, and we as a community have to think about what are we doing in this area. And then we have an area that means, or it is named practical work of patient organizations sharing best practice, because we have seen there are so many great projects and initiatives and ideas around where we need to work together. And now We want to get some input from you. What is important for you? What are maybe also in the context of the next conference, but also in the context of education and training? What are your needs? We briefly discuss this now, or we can collect some input from you, but we will send out, and this is already discussed, and we will do this within the organization in a few weeks. We will send you out something like a survey that we better understand in your organization what is your self-assessment in some of these issues, but also what are the needs of your community. So where can we help? What is already out there? And so let us hear some of the aspects that are really important for you.
I know it's the end of the conference. We're all tired. Yeah, here we go. We're all tired, but we've just spent a few days together doing education, and I know you've had to have thoughts on what more we could do at the conference or what more education you feel like would be helpful for you and your roles as you go back and think about everything you've learned. So that's what we're asking for now, is ideas that you've even thought of just sitting here, of what you liked, what you didn't like, or what you felt like you would need more information from about. What would you like to see next year?
Yep,
Let me give you the microphone. Uh-oh. I'm not sure I'm as fast as Catherine, but I'll get there.
So for me, it would be like 6, 7, and 8. Research for us is not really, it's not really a thing because we don't have research in Ireland. We've had one clinical trial in the last 5 or 6 years. So not that it's not important, it is, but for us, there's other things like the advocacy and lobbying to ensure that we do actually get research in the future, you know, stuff. So 6, 7, and 8 for us would definitely be where we would go for next year.
Okay, so evidence-based advocacy is an important topic.
Yeah.
For many of you? Okay.
And if it's not listed on here, this is not the exhaustive list.
No.
So
Yeah,
you can add
you can
anything
add
that has not been thought of.
anything what you think.
Hi, I'm Chelsea. I'm from Northwest Sarcoma Foundation in the U.S. I briefly talked about this in the advocacy group yesterday. We have a physician that we work with in the Portland, Oregon area who did a project on addressing how we classify this as rare, and how we talked about how that language can make people feel very alone. And so the idea is that his entire research project was based with the VA, because that's the closest we have to gathering histories of clinical stuff in the US, and how it's not as rare as we think, and how it's just misdiagnosed, like a sarcoma of the breast is misdiagnosed as breast cancer, and how if we can address how we're coding and putting things in our system, and that maybe it's not as rare, and how that affects funding for research, how that affects the patient outcome and how they feel alone and what they seek for care and treatment, and maybe some more support around it. So maybe, he's an idea, but maybe talking about the misdiagnosis, I know we've discussed it somewhat, but maybe in the back end, the coding of it, how can we work around the information we have and making sure that we're addressing it properly in order to boost our numbers to provide more care for people and research around the topic.
Okay.
Sorry for grabbing the microphone again.
No.
I just wanted to make one thing very clear. Obviously, everybody is asking for new, fantastic wonder drugs that are very helpful, and they are around. The best example clearly is imatinib in GIST. But you have to be aware that optimizing what we were discussing in this theoretical case discussion, optimizing all that has dramatically more impact on the overall sarcoma patient community than any other new drug, with the exception of imatinib. So a new drug that offers a statistical benefit of 6 months progression-free survival, even 1 year overall survival, is great to have, and we are doing a lot of work to get these drugs, but still the optimization of the whole process. And that is something that can be done, yes, here and today in all of your countries. At least you can try to push it. That has much more impact, and there are good data to prove this. That's not an assumption, that is proven data. That has much more impact on the overall health and survival chances of sarcoma patients around the world. So my advice is, as you just mentioned, of course it's interesting to learn about new drugs that may become available in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years in a subset of countries. Unfortunately not in a number of countries you are representing. So that's interesting, but that's, from my understanding, not your main goal. Your main goal is getting the available options to the patients, and the impact of that will be much greater. That's something that's my farewell message to all of you in a way.
Thank you. Any other comments, ideas, wishes,
Hold on,
suggestions?
we have some up here.
Yeah.
Here.
Catherine actually had the idea that we do something about the need to publish the negative data too, because in our subgroup, I'm sure in others, continuing to do something that has not shown to work is a missed opportunity to do something different that might work.
Okay, thank you.
Somebody else?
So I really like the tumor board session, what Peter and you give, and what I would suggest for the next year session is that we can have similar kind of sessions where we kind of role play or walk through the entire structure of how we do, how we undergo the process, but not just from the what a patient or a doctor journey goes through, but from how we do clinical trials or how we raise funds from the pharma companies. Like, we can cover different topics because that helps us understand the entire end-to-end structure. Yesterday, like, I attended your session of the do's and don'ts like of the clinical trial. But if like, I was thinking that if that session and the way this session was structured, if we can combine together, that would be a great learning, at least for me. Like, that's what I think.
Thank you. And what Peter already mentioned has also to do with this evidence-based advocacy and lobbying also, because you need to understand the process. That's great, but it's much more important, or very often it's better if you have clear evidence and you can show that these are the issues and these are the problems, and then you can advocate instead of say we need this for our patients. So that's why I think this topic 6, and we heard this now several times, is very important to understand how the processes are in the country, but also then what's going on what's going wrong in the country and where to advocate and what is very important for the community.
And I also just want to make a comment on that. Lenny had mentioned during her presentation previously that she was at an FDA Ultra meeting that I and Denise were both at as well. And there was a presentation there on drug development and how pharma determines how to invest, right? It was a fantastic, fantastic presentation that actually SFA is going to offer at our education day. Why did I bring that up? We'll record it and we'll make sure that other people can see it as well, but it's also a good point to, I also thought the role playing was fantastic and could have used a lot more time today. So it is a good idea to bring in other sort of topics like that. But I think understanding from the pharma perspective and industry's perspective, the challenges they even have in terms of, not that, and our pharma partners in the room know I'll say this, not that some days we're friends and some days we're foes, but it does help us be better advocates when we can understand also that perspective as well.
Okay, any other topics, ideas, needs?
Here, hold on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Here, use mine.
Yeah. No, it works. You also could add peer-to-peer support as one topic. I think all topics are interesting. Some topics like the research, not everybody is into research, but I think knowing the basics is always helpful to understand how it works. You have your own history with your disease or the disease of your of my son, but there are so many subtypes. But I find it interesting to at least know something about other diseases, because we are in contact with a lot of patients that have a disease that I never heard about. So it's nice to know what everything is going around, and the evidence-based advocacy on how we should read papers, for instance, but I'm not, I have no academic training, so it's also good to know on how you should read it. Is it a valuable paper? Because sometimes you really don't, sometimes I really don't know what I'm reading. Is it something reliable or not? So I think there are a lot of topics we can add and talk about.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I would strongly support this. That's something I do with my medical students, that I show them examples, I show them curves, I tell them how they should interpret the curves, what you need to look at, what you can learn from them in both ways, what they show and what they do not show, so they don't over-interpret or under-interpret. So as a spontaneous idea, I could offer 1 hour, 2 hour, 1.5 hour course on how to read a paper, how to learn from a paper. Next year, clearly not for everybody, for those a little bit more advanced in knowledge or at least interested in this, because that's clearly not your main task, of course, but if you're interested, we could take a number of papers, we could tell them in advance, that's the 3 papers we will discuss, so everybody can read them in advance, and then we can go through them and learn from them what information do you get out and what you don't get out, so that might be something interesting for a subgroup.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I think this also brings us, or would you like?
I just want to add to that. Also, though, being also able to interpret when we're sitting at the scientific meetings, or even here when we're seeing the graphs on the screen, and really understanding what's meaningful about that. What do we need to take away as patient advocates? So check, you're signed up.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a specific language science graph.
It is.
It's not easy to read.
Yeah.
Roger.
Picking up an earlier point that Peter made, one of the things that we need to help make happen is better primary surgery. Because if we can reduce the number of people that have a local relapse, local recurrence, we will reduce the number of people ultimately who get metastatic disease. Because although it's not an absolute indicator, it is an indicator for that. So we need to work on improving surgery at the first point of treatment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's work going on in the USA. I've been talking to Nathan from the Synovial Sarcoma Foundation, which is parallel work to work we have going on in the UK based in Newcastle, using efflorescence in surgery. Now, this is just one technique. Now, I've also seen presentations from surgeons who do bone cancer, where they have built the bones that they're going to operate on in 3D printing, so that they can, if you like, practice and identify the best routes of access and the best ways of handling that particular surgery. And we need to encourage these kind of things. There's robotics in surgery, which is a growing field right across the board. Does it have relevance to us? We need to encourage our surgeons to be thinking in these kind of directions, and we can do that as SPAGN much more easily than any of our national members, I think.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. So all these topics are great. Could I just suggest as a framework that I think would be amazing if SPAGN could put together basically like online or virtual patient advocacy training tracks, and you could have different modules, like one focused on research or one focused more on, you know, regulatory or patient programs. And you could crowdsource it from all the amazing people here, because I found really valuable here at the conference hearing about best practices, like learning from programs that someone actually had already done and talking about that, because you know it's like something that you could actually execute or borrow from. So I think having that online, plus then it would be accessible to so many more people who can't necessarily travel to the conference. So I think also solves kind of the access and equity issues. And that when we come together in person at the conference, I think it's really valuable to do the things we can't do virtually, like the role playing, or where there's more just interaction, I think is great. But I think a lot of that information could be pushed out online, and again, lots of experts in the room. I think that you could probably crowdsource.
Absolutely, and this is exactly the course we want to follow. I would summarize this as a SPAGN, let's call it patient advocacy school or however we call it. I think we have to be very clear what is important in the moment, what matters most, because we can't do all at the same time. And we also need to be sure that we don't double of our efforts. If we have a good program in place, maybe for patient involvement in research, I think we should take it for the whole community. But this means also that this is important. You just mentioned we have a lot of experts in the room. This means also that we need to involve, or we are able to involve you as presenters, as chairs, or whatever. So it needs also activity from the community. It's not, I would say, something like I switch on the TV and I switch the right channel and then I'm listening to TV. I think it's the interaction to build this up, but also to make the community aware that these offers do exist. Because if we do online courses, maybe with only 5 or 10 participants, this is frustrating for a lot of people. So we need to set up a structure that everyone is happy about this kind of training and education. Online, but also in presence, as we discussed.
And also to stress what Marcus said as well, I think leveraging a lot of the groups here do education within their part of their program and what they do, and really maybe being a collective of what is actually offered out there by others and being able to access those as well, rather than the limited, span being able to do all of it. That's a good point. There are things that can be done online, and there are things that need to be done here in person, and optimize the time that we have together. Anyone else?
And what we just learned a little bit from your feedback also is for the future conference that we also have to go into the direction we can offer a lot of topics in the auditorium, but we also need to think maybe, as we have done this yesterday, building 2 groups where we have the beginners and the advanced people, because otherwise we are involving or we overwhelming the newcomers with some of the topics, and maybe we are losing the experts because it's boring for the experts. So I think we need also to structure a little bit more in this direction.
So we have two more comments,
Hi.
and Marguerite.
Yes, hi. I say this not as a company representative, but as someone, a friend of a patient, a sarcoma patient. What I'm seeing is the evolution from like WebMD diagnosis and treatment options to now ChatGPT counseling. And we all know that AI is hallucinating and sending a lot of misinformation or misdirection out there. And so I think for the patient advocacy community, it would be helpful to have some training about how to correctly direct patients on how to use AI and how to debunk AI, because they are using that increasingly as a sort of an adjuvant resource to their own oncologists.
No, that's a really great point, and a big area of discussion I've been involved in as well is how are we we talk a lot about how we use AI in clinical, right, and diagnosis and clinical and treatment and all of these things, and how they can be a resource to the medical community, but we haven't focused as much on that in terms of what does it mean from a patient perspective. Because you're right, I don't know, I don't use ChatGPT too much, but when I've gotten things that are like 10 years ago. And if you don't pay attention to that, you think it's current. So it's a slippery slope. Okay, we had one more. Where's our? Oh, there you go. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
So I just have one more. So I interacted with a lot of people here, and what I realized is that every country has their own rules and regulation. Like somewhere there are many challenges. Yesterday, Marcus, you also told that for Germany there was some initiatives that you could be a part of and get the things done. But whereas like in Belgium, that was not possible. So maybe this conference is like a perfect place where people from all the countries comes together, talks about it, and we also talk about the challenges, workarounds, and the initiatives. Like today only we talked about summer camp initiative, which is great for younger kids to get together and talk about it and all that. So maybe we can create a sort of registry or something where we can list down that okay, every country, what are the challenges, how we are overcoming that, and what are some of the initiatives which are at the country level, so that it won't be like a sarcoma specific, like it would benefit all the type of cancers or all the other organizations also, so that the patients can be benefited from it, patients and other groups also. So just
Okay.
a random thought that I got.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. Thank you.
Then there was another. No? Okay.
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 Well, we're going to send out, this is not the end, so as you leave here, still be thinking about this.
Yeah.
And because there will be a survey coming out, and anytime, actually, reach out to SPAGN and let SPAGN know how we can, as an organization, better support you in your work as well. So it doesn't end here. Thank you for your feedback, but more to come, right, Marcus?
Absolutely. So thank you very much for this. I think this was helpful also for us in the direction to think about, in the right direction. Now, unfortunately, we are coming to an end. So I'm looking. Denise?
I'm going to hand my mic over to Denise and Marcus.
I think we just have some parting words. I know, as typical, we're a little behind. It seems like we've run that way, but I think it's been such a rich conversation and rich exchange. First, I want to thank those who have hosted us, the Swedish Sarcoma Group, the Karolinska. This has been a lovely environment for us to learn and grow and share together. I want to thank all of our presenters and people who have all of our speakers who have been, just terrific and engaged us, and for all of you, for all of your interaction and sharing. I want to thank our photographers for all these wonderful pictures. It's so fun to look and see. And so they're already posted. I saw Miki put a link on WhatsApp, so you can go back. And I mean, it's just to see the exchange, to see the smiles on your faces. This has been such, I think even post-COVID, I even more appreciate our opportunities to get together, to be in person, and to have time to, whether it's speed date and meet your board members, whether it's go to dinner last night, whether it's sit in a breakout room. This has been a terrific opportunity. We thank you for being here. We wish you safe travels home. And until we meet again, wherever that will be. Stay tuned. We don't know yet where that will be, so thank you.
Maybe just a small word to the team.
And my big thanks to the team that has put, to Catherine, Miki, Ivana, Corey. Awesome job. We could not do this without their help. So please, thank you so much.